Now, I was reading this week a great story, and I want to end with, I want you to just kind of pause here as you're thinking of this. Back in the 1600s, England had a civil war. It's not a big deal. It's Charles against Oliver Cromwell. It's one of those things we've read about in school and we forgot about. And it wasn't unlike the American Civil War. You lived in a certain area, or on one side you lived in a certain area, or on the other side. Here, you could be in the village, and half the village was for Cromwell and half for Charles. Well, there was a young man who found himself on Charles' side. His name was Basil Underwood. Basil was a young man, probably 20, 21 years old. He was engaged to be married, and he had to be conscribed into something, so he went into the king's army instead of into Cromwell's army. Well, he finds himself in the village where Cromwell was holding, where he had his headquarters. So he gets arrested as a spy. And Cromwell was there, so Cromwell held the trial. And back then they didn't have days and days of trial. They found out who he was, and they said, "You're guilty, and we're going to execute you." And so his fiancée came. His fiancée was named Bessie. She begged forgiveness at the feet of Cromwell to let this man go. He's not a spy. He just got into this war by accident. He doesn't want to be on anybody's side. Cromwell said this: "Tonight at curfew, at dark they rang the bells to make everybody go into their tents so the people wouldn't be outside. At curfew bell, he will be executed." I think it was 1658. He will be executed at the curfew bell. They were in a town, they had a church with a belfry who would ring the bell every night at dusk, every morning at dawn to wake people up. You see the picture. He said, "We will kill him, execute him." Then she goes, no, she begs, he doesn't do it. She leaves. He gets interred into the containment area where other people were going to be executed. So it became dusk. And the belfry, the man who rings the bells, remember the old-fashioned bells? You see them on movies where they have to grab the rope and they jump up and down. You know those bells? It took all the weight of this guy to ring the bell, right? And the bell would start going like this, huge bell, and the clapper would then, about second time around, start clanging and clanging, right? You got the picture? So the belfry starts pulling on the rope and pulling on the rope, and the thing's moving. You can see the silhouette of the thing moving, no noise. There was no clang of the bell. So Cromwell, knowing he's about to execute this guy, sees in the shadows the bell moving up in the belfry, but hears nothing. So they all run over, walk over probably, go to the belfry, who's totally out of breath. And they know he's been pulling that chain, pulling that cord, pulling up and down, no noise. And Cromwell says, "What is going on?" He goes, "I don't know. I'm pulling the curfew bell." And all of a sudden, they see a figure crawling down the rope. It was the girl. She had gone up, clung to the clanger, and as the thing was beaten against the cast iron, it was beating her body instead of the metal. Back and forth. No noise. True story. She comes down and says the bell never rang. The girl had climbed into the belfry and wrapped herself around the clappers so that it could not strike the bell. Her body was smashed and bruised, but she did not let go until the clapper stopped swinging. She managed to climb down, bruised and bleeding, to meet those awaiting the execution. When she explained what she had done, Cromwell commuted the sentence. It means he let it go. She managed to climb down to meet those awaiting. When she explained what she had done, Cromwell commuted the sentence. At his feet, she told her story, showed her hands all bruised and torn, and her sweet young face still haggard with the anguish it had worn. Touched his heart with sudden pity, lit his eyes with misty light. "Go, your lover lives," said Cromwell. "Curfew will not ring tonight." The love that this woman had for her fiancé, even to death if it took, is an incredible love. That is the love that Jesus Christ has for us. And the description here in chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians is a part of that. Because really, I would rather be impatient. I would rather have a little anger in my life. I would rather gossip when wrong happens to someone than rejoice. Wouldn't you? It's a little more fun, isn't it? I mean, really. But God has called us to a still more excellent way. Amen?